All right, this is chapter 4, lecture part 3 of 3. So last part of the lecture. We're starting with cell walls. So I wanted to take a break because cell walls are not found in animal cells. Cell walls are found in plant cells and in fungi and in bacteria, but not animals. And that's actually one of those things that differentiates an animal from a plant is that cell wall, among other things. So I want to make sure that you guys see this picture of a plant cell, and the plant cell has this inner yellow, so it does have a membrane, but it also has this orangey cell wall on top of it. So what does a cell wall do? A cell wall will protect the shape of the cell, protects the cell. Plants like to take up a lot of water, so let's see, prevents excessive uptake of water. So if it were up to a plant without a wall, it would basically take up so much water that would rupture the membrane, and that's not good, right? So we have to have a wall to make sure that it doesn't rupture. It maintains the shape of the cell. It supports the plant against gravity. So the plants don't have like a bone system, or a structural system like we do to hold ourselves up against gravity. They have walls that make them rigid, and then those walls can get even tougher with wood, but it supports the plant. Cell walls of plants are made of cellulose. So this cellulose is only in plants. I want to make that very clear. Their walls in fungi are made of chitin. I talked about that in chapter 3. And cell walls of bacteria are made of something else. It's called peptidoglycan, which we'll talk about later, so don't worry about it right now. But the walls of different kinds of organisms are made of different things. And then plants are because a wall is so rigid, it has to have little pores in it so that it can communicate with the neighboring cells. Okay, so they do have channels. All right, so that's a wall. So again, all organisms on the planet, all cells have a membrane. Some also have walls. Okay, plants, fungi, bacteria also have walls. The other thing in here, so moving on after cell wall, is a chloroplast. A chloroplast is an organelle that is used for photosynthesis. And this is another one of those, like the mitochondria, that's going to be very important when we talk about photosynthesis. So I want you to know the parts. So you want to know that, again, it has two membranes. It has an outer membrane and an inner membrane. The inner membrane is stacked up. Well, inside the inner membrane, we have other things called thylakoid membranes, and it's actually a continuation of the inner membrane. The thylakoid membranes are these green stacks, okay? And then you see the word grana. So this is the thing. When you see how these discs, there's 1, 2, 3, you would say, okay, there's 3 thylakoid membranes in this granum, in a stack. So the word granum means a stack of thylakoid membranes. Okay, so we have our inner and outer membrane. We have 2 membranes. We have thylakoid membranes stacked in granum. And then the word stroma is everything that's inside the chloroplast. So it's the fluid inside the chloroplast. It's called the stroma. And also chloroplasts also have their own DNA. Okay, this is where photosynthesis happens. Photosynthesis is the process of using sunlight to create sugar ultimately. All right, so here is a nice picture of chloroplasts inside of plant cells. So it's a little blurry, the resolution is not perfect, but this nice big rectangle that I'm outlining, that's one plant cell. Okay, so look inside. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, lots, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, a lot of different green structures. Each one of these green things is a chloroplast. So you can see a plant's chloroplasts, right? You can see that organelle. Now, let's look at number 17, where it says, before we move on to prokaryotic cells, right, for plant cells are eukaryotic cells. They have 3 extra organelles. There's the cell wall, the chloroplasts, and they have that central vacuole, right? Animal cells don't have that central vacuole. They don't store water in the same way. Now, let's go to number 18, prokaryotic versus eukaryotic cells. A prokaryotic cell, pictured here, is a lot simpler in nature than a eukaryotic cell. So I have an area for you to define what a prokaryotic cell is. And I want you to think about, go back in your notes and look at your eukaryotic cell and just do the opposite, right? So you should have put down that the eukaryotic cell has membrane-bound compartments inside. Well, the prokaryotic cell does not. It does not have any membrane compartments or any membrane inside of the cell. You should have put down that the DNA is found inside of a membrane-bound nucleus in eukaryotic cells, and that's not true with prokaryotic cells. So the DNA is not inside of a membrane-bound organelle. Prokaryotic cells do have DNA. They have DNA. It's just kind of in an essential part, but it's not membrane-bound. They tend to be smaller and simpler than your eukaryotic cell, okay? So this is a diagram. These are not to scale. Well, you can see the scale here. It's different, but it's tricky because they look the same size. But let's take a look at this picture down here. This is your cheek cell again, okay? So we have the actual membrane, the edge of your cell. We have the nucleus. We can see that dark staining big organelle in the middle. And then what's everything outside this? You see this one dot here? That's a bacterium. That is a prokaryotic cell. All of these dots outside in this background, those are all bacteria. See how small one bacteria is compared to one of your cheek cells? A eukaryotic cell is 1,000 times bigger than a prokaryotic cell, okay? So that is a better illustration of the size difference, obviously. So where do we find prokaryotic cells? Looking at your outline, we can see that there are two domains of life that have prokaryotic cells, domain archaea and domain bacteria. Only bacteria and other single-celled organisms in the domain archaea are made of prokaryotic cells. All other life on the planet is in the domain eukarya, meaning that they all have eukaryotic cells. And these are animals, plants, fungi, and protists. Okay? And I go on in here, did you know that our bodies contain 10 times more prokaryotic cells than our very own eukaryotic cells? So our own cells are outnumbered by the bacterial cells of our body. These organisms live on our skin, mouths, and mostly in our intestines. These microbes that live on us are called our flora or our microbiome. All right, so take a look at this picture. This is what you have in your notes to help you practice studying and outlining. So I'm just going to go through and point out the answers here. So this is going to be your nucleus, right? This is the nuclear envelope. This hole here is a nuclear pore. This is the nucleolus. And all this spaghetti-like stuff, this is your DNA. This is chromatin. All right, moving on. Look at this guy. This is that licorice candy I was talking about. This is the centriole pair, or otherwise known as the centrosome. Let's look at other things. All right, you see this structure here. This here, and also this, there's dots on it, right? This is the rough ER. So this is membranous sacs with ribosomes. These little dots represent ribosomes. So this is rough ER, and this is rough ER. Smooth ER is attached to rough ER, but it does not have those ribosomes. So this is all smooth ER. Let's look at some other things. This is a mitochondria. This is a mitochondrion. Actually, mitochondrion is singular. This is another mitochondrion. This guy over here, this is the Golgi apparatus, okay? What else do we see? This circle, okay, or this circle, or this circle, or this is a vesicle. Those are those little sacs that can help travel around the cell. Now, this is where it gets tricky. So this is not, I have to admit, this is not the best diagram. But these little stringy-like things here, 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 those would represent, in this little line here, that would represent cytoskeletal fibers. Okay, so this is part of your cytoskeleton. This might be part of your cytoskeleton. And the dots that are ribosomes on the ER, you can also see those same dots, little tiny dots in the cytoplasm, right? So remember, the cytoplasm or the cytosol is just all the material that's between the organelles. This is going to be a ribosome as well. So the difference is the ribosomes here make protein that are going to be secreted from the cell. So the rough ER makes proteins that are going to be shipped out. But the ribosomes in the cytoplasm, when they make a protein, it generally stays inside the cell. Okay, so I think we got all the big objects in this picture here. Hopefully you can color it, make it fun. And then I just have some other Q&A little things to look at. So let's identify this organelle. What is that organelle in yellow? Actually, why don't you pause it and identify all the organelles in colors? And I'll give you the answers. So this is the plasma membrane. This is the nucleus. This is the ER. So it does not, this is the rough ER here, and this is smooth ER, okay? But they colored them both, so we'll just say ER, endoplasmic reticulum. These dots, what do you think these might be? It's all over this structure here, and it's also in the cytoplasm. This is ribosome. What are the structures here? Go ahead and pause it, name them. Here's the answers. This is Golgi apparatus. These are the vesicles. This, we have a little change here. Look at the difference in picture. This is a plant cell. How do I know? Because it has a wall, geometric wall, and it has a huge blue area. This is our central vacuole. Central vacuole. These are mitochondria. So notice this picture is giving you a big clue. Animal cells without a cell wall and plant cells with the cell wall both have mitochondria. Okay, so when I say in the outline that plant cells have 3 extra organelles, they have all the organelles that animal cells do, but they have a few extra. They have the chloroplast and the central vacuole and the wall. All right, what is this? These two? This is a chloroplast, and this is the cytoskeletal fibers or cytoskeleton. Let's answer this question. Go ahead and pause it. All right, so which organelles are common to both plants and animals? And it would be mitochondria, C, and plasma membrane, D. Okay, so this is basically, I should have moved this slide up. This is the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Go ahead and read this question. I'll go ahead and pause it. The answer is C. In eukaryotes, the interior of the cell is divided by internal membranes into specialized compartments. All right, let's pause it to take a look at this one. All right, so the answer is C. The cytoskeleton guides organelles that must move from place to place within the cell. All right, and last 2 questions here. All the following organelles are involved in synthesizing products for the cell except. So this one, the smooth ER creates lipids, the rough ER creates proteins, so synthesizing is the same as create. Ribosomes synthesize proteins, and so the only one does not synthesize anything is lysosome. Which of the following components are present in prokaryotic cells? Okay, so in a bacterial cell or a prokaryotic cell, the only one out of the list that would be present is B, ribosomes, because remember, prokaryotic cells do not have membrane-bound organelles inside, and chloroplasts have 2 membranes. The nuclear envelope is a double membrane, the ER is a membrane, so this is the only choice that does not have a membrane. So prokaryotic cells do also have ribosomes. All right, and we're done for chapter 4.